All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that feels a little bit like magic in modern app design. You know, that thing that makes an app look absolutely perfect on any screen, whether it's tiny or huge. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? You open an app on a little iPhone SE and it looks great. Then you grab a giant iPad, open the exact same app, and somehow it still looks great. How does that even work? It's not magic, but it is some seriously clever engineering. Well, the answer in two words is auto layout. This is Apple's secret sauce. It's a system that lets developers build these incredibly flexible, adaptive UIs. The big idea here is that instead of telling a button, hey, you live at this exact pixel on the screen, you tell it something more like, hey, you should always be in the center no matter what. It's about relationships, not fixed addresses. But to really get why auto layout is such a game changer, we kind of have to go back in time. Let's take a look at how things used to be done back in the Wild West of early iOS development. It was, let's just say, a much more rigid world. Okay, so before auto layout, the system was called springs and struts. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like you're pinning a poster to a bulletin board. You were literally telling the app, okay, this button, it goes exactly 50 pixels from the top and 20 pixels from the left. Period. Everything had a fixed, hard-coded coordinate. And look, for a little while, that worked just fine. I mean, think about it. When the very first iPhone launched, there was one screen size. That was it. Layouts were simple, there was only one device to worry about. So yeah, this hard-coded approach was perfect for that super predictable world. But we all know what happened next, right? That simplicity was not gonna last. Right. The world of iPhones and iPads was about to explode in complexity. And when it did, that old, rigid way of building screens, well, it started to crack. Big time. And you can see just how fast it all happened. It started with just one screen size. Easy enough. But then, bam, the iPad hits the scene. A totally different canvas. Then came the taller Plus model iPhones. All of a sudden, that one-size-fits-all idea was a complete and total disaster. You'd have buttons floating in the middle of nowhere, text getting chopped off. It was a mess. What looked great on one phone was just broken on another. And this was a developer's absolute nightmare. Suddenly, you had to worry about all these new variables. What happens when someone turns their phone sideways? What about people who need bigger fonts to read? And localization, what if you translate a button from OK to a German word that's 3 times as long? That old system of fixed positions, it just fell apart. It couldn't handle any of it. So all this chaos, all these broken layouts, it was clear something had to change. Apple needed a whole new approach, a new set of rules for the game. They needed a system that was smart, flexible, and could actually deal with this crazy new reality. And that's exactly what they delivered. In 2012, with iOS 6, the solution arrived. It was called Auto Layout, and it wasn't just an update, it was a revolution. It completely changed the game for anyone building an app on an Apple device. This was the turning point. This slide really nails the fundamental shift in thinking. The old way was all about fixed coordinates, fragile, hard-coded math. We were bossing the computer around, telling it exactly what to do. The new way, with auto layout, is all about relationships. It's adaptive, it's declarative. We're not giving orders anymore. We're describing how things should behave. So instead of yelling, put this button at XY, we started saying things more like, hey, this button, it should always stay centered horizontally. That's it. It doesn't matter if the screen is a tiny phone or a giant tablet. The system's job is to figure out the math to keep it perfectly in the middle. It's a rule that just makes sense, right? Or how about this one? This label should always be 8 points below the image. See what's happening? The label is now tied to the image. If the image moves, the label moves right along with it. They're connected by a logical rule, not by some random coordinates. And the best part? The layout engine does all that tricky math in the background, so you don't have to. So here's the bottom line. Auto layout came in and just solved all those nightmare problems we talked about. Because layouts were now based on rules instead of coordinates, they could finally adapt to any screen. They could handle system changes on the fly. And for developers, it meant no more hard-coded calculations and way, way easier maintenance. And all of this leads to a really powerful new philosophy, a mantra, really, for developers that saves an unbelievable amount of time and headaches. Build once, adapt everywhere. That's it. That is the ultimate promise of auto layout. You design one smart, rule-based layout, and then you can trust the system to make it look fantastic on any iPhone, any iPad, both the ones we have today and the ones that haven't even been invented yet. So let's wrap this up. Auto layout isn't just some neat feature, it's literally the foundation of all modern iOS app design. It's what lets developers build with confidence, knowing their hard work won't just shatter the next time Apple releases a new device. Honestly, if you're serious about building great iOS apps that can grow and last, mastering this is absolutely essential. Which leaves us with a really interesting question to chew on, doesn't it? We've pretty much solved the problem of making a user interface look good on any screen. So, what's next? What's the next big frontier for user experience? What's the next great challenge in making our apps even smarter, even more responsive? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this one.